Now we're ready then to actually reply to the user. So we can very easily do this using Codebird, but there's a couple of things that we need to bear in mind when we actually use Twitter's API. So the one thing that we don't want to do is just tweet the user with their screen name. We actually want to reply to them. So if we just head over to the Twitter API and we go to statuses update, let's just search for this. There we go. And we have a couple of options that we can pass through here. So if we just go down, we've obviously got the status, which is required. That's just the text that we send off. That's going to be the emoji. And we want to make sure that we pass in reply to status ID. So we already have the status ID. It's literally just the ID that we get back when we loop through these. So it's just tweet ID. So with that in mind, we can now use Codebird to reply. So we use the CB variable, that's Codebird, remember, and we just say statuses update. We pass an array with all of our options, and we'll start with the status because this is a little bit tricky. We need to basically decode the entities we have just up here so they're actually sent as an emoji. Otherwise, we'll literally just be sending this text here, which isn't great. So to do this then, the status is going to start with an @ symbol because we want to @ the user into this or mention them. And then we want to grab the tweet user screen name. Remember, that's the way that we kind of set this up before. So we just have these 3 items just here. So now that we have done that, we want to add in a space and then we want the emoji just here. So the emoji then is going to be a randomly selected emoji from whichever emoji set has been chosen. So to start out, let's just say emoji set, and then inside of here we need to choose an index. Now to get a random one, we just want to use the rand function. We start at 0 because obviously arrays are 0 indexed, and we use the count function to grab the upper bound for this randomly selected number. So in this case, it's going to be emoji set, but we want to -1 because if we have, say, 5 in here, we want to choose between 0 and 4 because that's a 0 indexed array will end at 4. So we just -1 off of there. So now that we have that emoji, we want to decode it. So we use, to do this, the HTML entity decode function. You can obviously read about this more on the PHP manual if you want to. But essentially what we want to do is just pass in the emoji. So we're going to say HTML entity decode. We are going to pass in the emoji to this. We have 2 parameters here. One is if we just go over to the manual, the flags, any flags that we want to pass. In this case, we don't need any. And of course, we want to pass in the encoding. And in this case, it is UTF-8. And that is pretty much it for the tweet body. Now, the second argument is going to be in reply to status ID. And we already know the tweet ID. So we just say tweet ID like so. So now that we've done this then, for all of them tweets, we're going to tweet the user, store it so we don't keep replying to them. And this should now work perfectly. So if I just refresh here, let's just see what happens. We can go over and just check if, there we go. So we didn't do anything there. We've not tracked any. So we need to obviously tweet this. So let's say Codecourse bot and just say, I love cats. Go and tweet this. Go over here and refresh. And we should see a reply to that come through. Let's just check here. And there we go. Oh, so we have I think this might be a neutral face. So maybe Centerbot doesn't like cats or something. Let's go and just do another one just to test this out. So Codecourse bot, let's just say programming is hard. Tweet this, go and refresh, and we should see, there we go. Great. So we know that this is working and we know that it is tracking now that we've added 2 onto here. So when we refresh, it's not going to keep replying to that user. So that is pretty much it for the single page version of this. Hopefully all of this makes sense. But of course, what we want to do is get this into a nice structure. So I'd recommend you go and follow the Laravel version of this. This will mean that we can set up very easily automatic scheduling if you're familiar with Laravel. And of course, what we can do is also queue the storing of these. We can queue the sending of a tweet and all that good stuff. And if you did want to just test this out, you can just set up a cron job and run this every 15 minutes. But do be aware of Twitter's API limitations. So remember, 15 calls every 15 minutes. And of course, Monkey Learn will also have limitations as well, but you shouldn't really hit them in the case of 20 tweets at a time with their analysis. So that is it. We've built a bot which replies to us based on the sentiment analysis of a tweet.